WL Sports, where we review all the best sports clips from around the country. Now, you're probably wondering, why should I watch over here instead of over there? Because over there, they don't care about what you have to say. They say this all the time. They talk down to us. They think we're just a bunch of clowns on YouTube, Twitter. But I think it's the opposite. I think we know exactly what we're talking about. So I read every single comment. So if you think what I'm saying is the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard, let me know in the comments below. If you think what I'm saying is the most amazing thing, then definitely please let me know. Either way, let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing, as we are building an amazing community here, and it's turning into something truly, truly special. And I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of, and I think we're well on our way to doing that. So without further ado, let's get to it. We're watching a clip of First Take about Brock Purdy. You know, why does America want Brock Purdy to fail? I'm going to be talking about Purdy these next couple of days for sure, because a lot of people are in the comment section recently talking about Purdy, and I also want to clear some things up. There's some confusion around my personal opinions of Purdy, and I'm not sure why, because I think I'm being very clear, but I don't know. Maybe I'm not. So I'm gonna probably give what I'm gonna say. What I'm going to say now, probably in a couple videos today. So I apologize for repeating, but I don't. This is First Take, and I do a lot of more like First Things First and the Herd, and so I don't know if a lot of the people who usually watch the First Things First videos and the Herd, if they're going to come across the First Take one. So I want to say this: I believe Brock Purdy is a good quarterback. Okay, I believe he is a good quarterback. I've said this repeatedly. I think he is a good quarterback. Let me say it one more time. I think he is a good quarterback. I said I would be more than happy to have him as my quarterback for my team. And any team should be happy. I do not think he's a scrub. I do not think that he's just lucky. I do not think that he's just being completely carried by the San Francisco 49ers. But what I do think is that everybody just wants to crown him as being elite and the next coming of Tom Brady, or can surpass Patrick Mahomes in just the current era right now of who's the best quarterback. And I'm just not going to say that right now. I'm just not. And that's okay. Because on one side, everybody wants to tell me how amazing and how elite he is. And then if you ever point out any drawbacks of him, you want to say, but look, he's so young. This is only his first real full season. Exactly. This is only his first real full season. So you have to give it some time. The NFL is littered with quarterbacks who have had great seasons, 1 or 2 seasons that looked unbelievable. And we always wanted to crown these people. We did it with Derek Carr. We did it with Matt Ryan. We did it with Carson Wentz. We did it with, trying to think if there's anyone else on the top of my mind right now. Can't think of anyone else. Probably will pop in my head later. But let's just look at those quarterbacks right there. I mean, they were being crowned as being elite. Especially Carr and Wentz were both going to win the MVP. They got injured. Wentz probably should have still gotten the MVP, quite honestly. But he got injured, and even with the injury, he still should have won. And then what happened? Things changed. Different coaches, different weapons, different offensive schemes, and it all mattered. And so really, my biggest point about Purdy is that he's both lucky and unlucky, because his team is stacked with veterans who are in their prime, who are elite and great, with an amazing elite head coach who knows how to pull all the strings and make everyone succeed. That's what Shanahan does. He puts the players in positions to succeed. And because of that, when someone like a Purdy succeeds, it's like, well, how much of it is actually him? And I think it's a fair question. It's a fair question for anyone. I pose the same question when I talk about Patrick Mahomes. I think Patrick Mahomes is absolutely undeniably elite and would be undeniably amazing no matter where he went. But I don't believe that he would be as successful as he is right now if Patrick Mahomes or if Andy Reid wasn't his head coach. And you'd be delusional to think otherwise. If that was the case, then you would never need a coach like Andy Reid. And so why pay someone like Andy Reid? Why not? Why not just get the owner's son to be the head coach then? I mean, seriously. So there would be no reason. And so we know head coaches really, really matter, or at the very least, offensive coordinators for quarterbacks. We know this. We know this. This has been proven over years and years and years. So it's just there's just no doubt in my mind with regards to that. So Purdy is getting that luxury. And the problem also with him being so young is that we know Christian McCaffrey is the dude. We know Debo is the dude. We know, his offensive line are the dudes. We know Bosa. We know these players have more history and have established themselves as not the problem for when losing. Kittle as well. And I'm missing names. I'm not giving you a complete list here. Purdy hasn't earned that yet because he's so young. Purdy's not in his prime right now. Purdy's not in his athletic prime, and he's not in his intellectual prime, and he's not in his just, football skill set prime. He's learning and growing, and he's playing with other people who are in their primes at all levels of it. So naturally, he is the limiting factor. And that's not a knock on Purdy. It's just his age. LeBron James if Purdy is the next equivalent of a LeBron James wasn't the LeBron James when he was 19, 20 years old. It took him until 23, 24, 25, whatever. You'd have to look and see when his true, prime years were, but it wasn't in the very beginning. So theoretically, if LeBron James was drafted to, God, let's just say the Lakers, right? Let's just make up a scenario here. He was drafted to the Lakers with Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal, right? He would be the limiting factor of that team. LeBron James would be the limiting factor of that team. He just would, because he's just so much younger. He's not in his prime. He's figuring out how to play in the NBA, and that's that. So that's where, if you want to say that Purdy is elite or is going to be elite, you still have to acknowledge that he's not there right now. And that's really my biggest argument. And I don't know why people take that as me saying that Purdy's not good or Purdy's trash or all this. I don't know why. I really don't, because I think I'm being very clear.
In a score, this week he'll have to face a competitive Lions defense. Roar. Stephen A., is Brock Purdy's San Francisco's biggest concern?
Well, for me, it is. And I wanted to take this moment to get on my man, Dan Orlovsky. Because I saw him on Get Up this morning chastising the American public, because they have the temerity and unmitigated gall to question Brock Purdy, and he threw out all the numbers and he watched film and all of this other stuff. Dan Orlovsky, I'm going to tell you something I've told Molly before. I've told a lot of people before. My brother, if everybody was you, you wouldn't be special. You can't expect people to know what you know.
Thank you.
You're watching film all the damn time. Who the hell has time to do that? You sit up there as a profession, you're literally dissecting. You played the game, you know the game, and you can dissect it with a fine-tooth comb. How many people get an opportunity to do that? If the American public is watching you, you know what they're seeing? They're seeing Brock Purdy struggle for the first 3.5 quarters. They saw him close the deal with a drive, step up in moments. They knew there was inclement weather, but the ball was slipping out of his hand. But they also saw a 3-game losing streak earlier this year. They saw what he looked like without Trent Williams and Debo Samuels. They've got question marks. At the very beginning of the Dallas game, before he ripped them apart and dropped 42 on them, he was sitting up there and throwing it into the line of scrimmage a couple of times, and they said he seems a bit undersized. If you give him a clean pocket, he's one person, but if you compromise him in any way with a level of duress, what is he going to do? These are the things that people deduce from watching the game. They can't watch it with the keen eye of a Dan Orlovsky or a Mina Kimes. You have to understand that. That's why you go on the air and you explain it. You sit there and rather than call them dumb or whatever it was, what you do is say to them, Dan, I know things that you don't. So allow me to educate you. Here we go. You thought this, but it was actually this. That's all you had to do. Because I got news for you. When I see this NFC Championship game, and I think about Jared Goff, and I think about the rest of that Detroit offense, and I imagine Hutchinson and the crew being able to get to Brock Purdy and press him a little bit, especially based on the slippage I've seen from the San Francisco 49ers, I think they got a shot, the Lions got a shot to win this damn game, regardless of how good Brock Purdy is. Because he might not be better than the opposition. You see how that works?
I like that. Stephen A., before Mina goes, usually when I'm working at ESPN, my coworkers take shots at me, so I appreciate you saying something in a positive fashion. I will note it. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Was that positive? I couldn't tell if that was a compliment or insult. It was kind of a journey that we went on.
I'm taking it as a positive.
All right.
So,
I'll take it. Okay. It was a compliment. But I disagree with Stephen A. Not about Dan knowing ball, but about Brock Purdy being the biggest concern in this game. If it was raining, I would say yes. If Trent Williams was hurt, I would say yes. But I think he'll play well against this Lions defense. The Niners have a ton of matchup advantages on that side of the ball. It's the other side of the ball that concerns me for San Francisco. It's watching Aaron Jones go off on perimeter on crack toss. They're going to copy paste what the Packers did in the run game, and the Lions are more than capable of doing that, by the way, with Jahmyr Gibbs, to this San Francisco defense that can't set an edge. San Francisco.
So yeah, I think actually what Stephen A mapped out, and again, I don't really agree with Stephen A on pretty much anything, but I think what he mapped out in terms of what people are seeing, because I'm also seeing this a lot in the comment section. A lot of people are coming at me and saying, you don't know what you're talking about. It sounds like you haven't really watched every single game. Yes. Let me confess to you all that I have not watched every single football game of every single team. You know what would be awesome? If I could get there, right? If this channel could grow and this could become like a job where I'm actually I'm actually truly building what I want to build, then yes, I absolutely will do that. And I will watch every single game so I could be the most educated person possible. But you know what? That's not my life right now. Okay. So you're absolutely right. I have not seen every single game and play of every single team. You're right. And I got news for you. Neither has Colin Cowherd. Neither has Nick Ray, Chris Broussard, Greg Jennings, Shannon Sharp, Stephen A. If I didn't already say him, any of these people on TV really. And even if they claim they do, I can guarantee you they're most likely lying. Or sure, they have it playing, but they're like doing a bunch of other stuff at the same time. And so sometimes you have to take some snap judgments. And I think that was what Stephen A said was correct, right? Like people who maybe don't know Brock Purdy. I know Brock Purdy better than the average casual fan because I have seen a lot of games with him and I've seen, and I've been watching because I like Brock Purdy. My eyes have perked up. I love the stories of people, being underdrafted and things of that nature. Like as a fan, I am rooting for Brock Purdy. I am not rooting against Brock Purdy. Can't, again, emphasize that enough. But I think his point is well taken that let's say you're not watching all of these games, right? Like you're more of a casual fan, which I'm still figuring out in terms of the people who are watching these videos. Are these more? I think it's a spectrum. I think there's some more casual fan. I think there's some very diehard fans. We have some ex-professional athletes watching on my channel, and stuff like that. And so it just is what it is. You have some people that played in college, D1. You have some people that maybe played like D3 or no college at all, but they played in high school. They were great in high school, but just didn't play in college, And so you have all of these different, views and opinions and past experiences. And so if you're talking about just like a general fan, someone who really likes football, but doesn't know all the X's and O's, doesn't understand, what I don't know. I'm trying to think of a random example is, the different defensive schemes that there could be or whatever, they know handoff and I don't know. They know football well enough where they can enjoy the game, watch the game, know the players, but they don't really understand it because football is an incredibly complicated sport. I'm not even going to pretend like I know everything because who am I to say that I think that I know all this type of stuff? I don't. I'm always learning and trying to grow. But if you're watching Brock Purdy's games, you do know that he has struggled, as all quarterbacks have. You do know, you do see him in the game against the Ravens, and you go, oh, that didn't look good. And then you watch him again in the playoffs, and you go, oh, wow, yeah, that doesn't look good. Why are people talking about Brock Purdy being so good? I don't understand. You saw him in the last year playoffs against the Dallas Cowboys. He didn't play good at all. Okay, and then again, you say, okay, well, he played great against Seattle. Seattle was not a good team. Yes, they made the playoffs. They were not a good team. They just weren't, okay? They were also hanging on by a thread. They just barely made the playoffs. And they didn't make the playoffs this year. So, they were very fortunate in that regard. So you just have to connect all of these dots and figure out why people reach certain conclusions that they do, right or wrong. But what I don't understand is why when you criticize, people are acting like the criticism of Brock Purdy is unwarranted or is exceptionally high relative to other quarterbacks. And I just want to say that is wholeheartedly, 1000%, undeniably not true. I mean, let's go back. Tom Brady, really, even when he was being debated as the GOAT, until he, I forget when Tom Brady officially crossed over to just being the bona fide GOAT, because now it doesn't seem like people really debate it, but it went back when it was a conversation of some sort. Because now it seems like people just no one says anything negative about Tom Brady. Maybe it was after he won in Tampa. I don't really recall, but he got called out for being a system quarterback, right? And then there was the real discussion about how many Super Bowls were because of Bill Belichick versus Tom, because especially you see a couple of those wins, or again, I don't remember the exact number, but his stats were not great. He was not the reason why they won, a handful of those Super Bowls. It's not like they were all, he didn't take that team on his back. Those were definitely back in the days of defense wins championships. And so I think if Tom Brady's being criticized, okay, Josh Allen gets criticized. Jalen Hurts last year. Jalen Hurts balled out last year, was going to be the MVP, but also got injured, unfortunately, and then lost it to, I think it was Mahomes, right? And everyone was just saying, well, any quarterback could do good, behind that offensive line. He's a system quarterback. He's not that good. And everyone was criticizing him. And then this season, when the team is a little bit older and there's coaching issues, Jalen Hurts did not thrive at all, and Jalen Hurts was also banged up, and now the question is well, people are questioning. Nick Wright is questioning Jalen Hurts. Is he even a franchise quarterback? Would they get rid of Jalen Hurts for Caleb Williams if they had the chance? And that's a question, and I don't necessarily think that that's true, but I think it's okay to ask the question. People are very defensive about Brock Purdy, that if you just question him or say, people call out Justin Herbert, they call out Joe Burrow, they call out Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is a 2-time MVP now. He's going to be a 2-time MVP, okay? Unanimous MVP. Has done things that the NFL has never seen, and people will call him out. Brock Purdy hasn't done any of that stuff. And yet, if you kind of question Brock Purdy's elite status, that means you're just an automatic hater. I don't get it. I really, really don't. So if someone can please help me understand why there's so much sensitivity around Brock Purdy, I would absolutely love to know, because I don't understand. I really, really don't. So please let me know in the comments below. Would truly love to hear your thoughts. Please don't forget to subscribe. As I said, we are building an amazing community here, and I would really love to see you part of it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really helps with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.